and welcome to this episode of Cuppa Press. On our episode today, we have with us Imraan Moh, digital marketer and founder of Mohalla. Hello, Imraan. How are you doing?
Hi, Akshay. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great as well. Thank you so much, Imran, for being on the show today.
A
So,
pleasure.
to give you a brief introduction on who Imran is, like I said, he is the founder of Mohalla, a digital marketing agency, and he's also one of my favorite storytellers on LinkedIn because his content mostly revolves around honest storytelling, which I think is the core belief of Mohalla itself. So, Imran, you want to tell us a little bit about Mohalla and what Mohalla does?
Thanks for the wonderful introduction, Akshay. So, Mohalla is basically a digital marketing agency, and yeah, Mohalla literally translates to community. It's a Persian word, but most of the agencies out there, they are in the process of building the brand audience, or they're trying to attract the audience. But here at Mohalla, what we do is we build brand communities because we feel that brand communities are much stronger than the brand audience. So that's about it. We lay out a lot of marketing strategies. We bring in social media, we bring in content, we bring in influencers. We have a lot of connections that dots that we connect to make this possible. Yeah.
Hmm. All right. Thank you so much again, Imran, for being here. So today we're going to be talking about all things branding, and I'm really excited to get this started because we're shooting this as the first thing in the morning. And ideally, when we thought about Cuppa Press, this is exactly how we pictured it. Imagine yourself sitting back with a cuppa early in the morning and wanting to consume content that is easy. So I think we'll jump right into the topic. So to begin with, what is branding?
Branding is basically building a personality for your idea, which actually is an organization, obviously, because you'll be having a team to pursue your vision.
Mm-hmm.
So personality is something which you're trying to build, right? So that you have legs, you have hands, you have limbs, you have a thought process, you have a brain, which will help you reach your destination. And building that, on the process of building that personality is nothing but branding. Yeah.
That is, I think, beautifully put, Edran. So that brings me to my next question. Is branding a one-time exercise after all?
Never. Branding is something which you do every minute, every moment, because you have to live up to your vision, right? So basically, the process that we follow, or most of the branding experts follow, is you start with your vision statement, right? So first of all, I mean, if you look at my LinkedIn posts, I have been talking about vision, about a vision a lot. I was helping the community to understand the purpose of vision and how you can write a vision statement as well. So basically, it all starts with your values. Say, for example, you have a goal. Say, for example, you want to reach Mount Everest. You want to go to the peaks of Mount Everest. So for that, what is that you need? You need physical fitness, right? You have to practice your breathing, and also that you can resist yourself, and it's very difficult to breathe in cold conditions, right? So you train your body to reach that destination. So what is that framework that you lay out? What is the plan that you have to reach your destination is all about branding, right? So you start with your values, and how do you derive these values? Based on the industry that you have, based on the audience that you have, the realistic goals that you have. You're going to derive these values, and once you have these values, based on these values, you'll start hiring your team, because your team has to breathe the same values. And once you have all this in place, that is when you're going to reach your vision. So vision is something which, for me, honestly, is not something which is achievable. Vision is always something which always you dream about, because once you reach your vision, there's no excitement left. It should look human. At the same time, it should look very, I don't say unrealistic, but a little impossible. So, which will actually help you drive that energy or enthusiasm, which you can always infuse in your team members, and so you do branding. So this is, in short, this is what branding is. And since you talk about your team, since you talk about your values, since you talk about vision, so you have to think about it every minute, every moment. And that's why it's not a one-time process. Writing your values, writing your vision, it's all one time. You cannot change your vision. But you can change your mission statements because the goals might be changing. We don't build brands to survive or exist for 10 years or 2 decades. We want the brand to grow forever. Because I like when I see these brands, say for example, Coach, right? It's a fashion company which has 1867, established in 1867, and they have been in the market since then. So that is the kind of branding that I'm talking about, right? So it's not, we still call it as a brand because they are still following those brand guidelines or brand rules that they had at that point of time. So it's not something which you exercise a one-time, assignment or something. It's something which you breathe in, breathe out.
That was yet again, I think, a beautiful answer. So consider branding the way you will breathe in and breathe out. I think should be the motto of every branding person out there. So, Imran, this brings me to my next question. What do you think can make or break a branding strategy?
Again, see, vision statement, mission statement, your values, and the CEO of the company or 4 pillars is how I see all this. I mean, these are pillars for any brand. If you're not taking care of anything, your brand is gone. Your brand cannot, I mean, no one can stand on 3 pillars. No one can stand on 2 pillars. No one can stand on 1 pillar, right? So make sure that your foundation and your pillars are strong. So if you're ignoring any element of these four, the brand is going to break.
And what do you think can push your brand higher? What can make your branding strategy? What can take your branding strategy to a whole new level?
Beef up more, make your pillars strong. That's your job, right? Maybe today you have only iron pillar. Put more concrete to it. And how do you put more concrete? By making your teams much stronger. Try to bring in that integrity into your team so that they can reach. I mean, everyone should have the same vision. Make sure that you preach the vision statement that you have. I know, I understand that I'm talking about the vision more, but that's the whole purpose of building a brand, right? Yeah. So more than breathe in, breathe out branding, breathe in, breathe out the vision that you have, and that will actually help your brand grow.
That makes a lot of sense. So you've spoken about what branding is so far. So what do you think content has to do when it comes to branding? What is the role of content when it comes to branding?
See, when we are talking about this vision statement, and the values, right? You always put them in words, right? So that is the content that you have, and you cannot tell the same statement forever. I mean, vision statement will never change, but when you want to convey these messages to your audience, because your audience are evolving day by day. The audience that you have today might not be having the same mindset after 10 years. So you might not want to have the same kind of narratives even after 10 years, right? So the evolution of your content is nothing but the process or the exercise of experimenting with the content. At the same time, make sure that you're not losing the essence of your brand. For example, the website that you have today for your brand might not work after 10 years because the kind of words that you use, the kind of lingo that is changing. If you go to Urban Dictionary, the words that you had 10 years before is not there now because it's like the keywords are changing, right? So you basically write the content for keywords. If the keyword, your keywords are not going to be the same keyword that you have today that you're working on, say April 2020, will not be the same in April 2021. And that's why SEO is a continuous process that you work on. Right. So basically, you're working towards the keywords when it comes to branding. You want to position your brand, or you want to tag your brand with certain keywords, right? So that's how the content evolves when it comes to branding. The keywords which will actually give you a direction when you're writing the content for your brand.
Mm. Understood. Thank you, everyone. So, since we're talking about content, if you're entering the content game, you have to enter with a long-term mindset and you have to be really consistent with what you're doing. So, what do you have to say about that, Emra?
Same thing, you're working for your keywords, right? The keywords are evolving and the content will also evolve. So, see, again, content is not just the set of words that you're putting, which will make sense, but it's the combination of the images, the visuals, so visual and textual coordination that you're working on. right? And a lot of people mistake saying that content is basically 100 words piece of information. No, even an image, anything which can express some sense out of their existence, right? So that is basically the content. It can be a video, it can be an infographic, it can be a picture, it can be a paragraph, it can be a copy that you're writing for. It can be a social media banner. It can be, a LinkedIn art banner. See, all these elements that these social media platforms are, helping you structure are basically based on the content creation. Right. What is the purpose of having a profile picture? What is the purpose of having a LinkedIn banner? What is the purpose of having, say for example, if you go to Facebook, you get like 1,000 options or 1,000 features in that one small space when you see what's on your mind. Why is it that it's asking about your feeling? Why is it that it's asking about your location? Why is it it's asking about your, it's recommending you or it's suggesting you to tag someone from your team? It's because to tell your story in a very compelling way. These are all the elements which are actually helping you to make your story, believable, or it's more like a documentation that you're doing, right? So content is not just basically a piece of line or a paragraph. It's basically a combination of various expressions that you have, right? And how you put it together. At the same time, you should not be, ignoring the essence of your brand. You have to make sure that this is coming, whatever the tone that you're building, right, for that piece of content is coming out of that brand vision statement or whatever the values that you're building, right? So it should be part of that.
So, Emra, at this point, I would like to know what is the difference between the normal type of content, any type of content that you create, and the branded content.
So again, see, whatever the things that I have mentioned earlier, the way you are expressing your feelings or the way you are expressing the current situation of your brand, right? All this is happening in-house, meaning on your platforms. See, if you want to take the same kind of message or the tone onto a different platform or different medium, say for example, there's an influencer, or there might be an article, a blog where you want to go and feature yourself, right? So whatever that feature, see again, you should not be confused between the digital PR or the PR or the branded content. So PR is basically a news or a story that you want to tell about your brand, right? But branded content is something which you feel that I want to, take my brand to various, to some other channel or some other medium. Okay, let me come back to the example that I was talking, right? So there might be an influencer campaign that you're planning, right? So influencers are basically, again, we're talking about digital influencers, right? Someone from Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, right? They have their own channel, they have their own set of audience, but we belong to the same industry. So you're going and positioning your brand in that industry using that influencer or rather using that channel, right? So the kind of guidelines that you give to that influencer to put your message out there, right? So that is nothing but your branded content. It's your brand which is giving a direction to create some content on their channel, right? So that is branded content. And content that you are writing for yourself is content for branding. As simple as that. It's the other way around. Just flip it up.
So, do you have any personal favorites of brands that have effectively done the branded content strategy in brand?
Mahalo.
Mm-hmm.
Just kidding. Let me think about it. See, I have so many personal favorites, I would say. Vocal for local is going on. I'll vote for Freshworks. Right. I really love what they're doing. Really like the way, because see, they have a lot of products and they have so many products, and it's not easy to maintain that consistency throughout. But I just love the way that they're handling it. If you ask me something international, see, for me again, humor doesn't, creativity. I don't feel that that is something which is branding. I don't really look for quirkiness. I don't look for that humor or wit in any brand. It's all about the vision that they have and how consistent they are with messages, right? In that way, I don't like the product, but I would say I like their branding. That is Coca-Cola. Yeah, they're very smart enough. No. And because see, there is one brand. It doesn't matter whether I'm drinking it here in Hyderabad or New York. I tried in many other countries, but the taste is the same. I mean, I get that feel that all right, this is Coca-Cola. You put me down like thousand different fountain drinks in front of me, and you hand it over, and you ask me to drink, and you ask me to identify Coca-Cola. I will identify Coca. No, it's see again. I'm not talking about the product review or feeling, but it's the feel that I get the moment I drink it. That yeah, it's there. That happiness that they talk about, it's there. But I don't like the product personally. I don't recommend the product personally. Yeah.
All right. So, Imran, you've also spoken about humanizing your content and humanizing your brand. I think you've mentioned it a couple of times now. So, for a brand that is just starting up, can you give them a guideline on how they can humanize their voice and their brand tone?
Whatever the brands that we are building, it's basically for humans, right? It doesn't matter what kind of big product, even if you're, say, mostly, if you look at the B2B segment and B2C segments, right? In B2B, say, for example, there's a company which is selling iron or some kind of metal. You might be thinking it's for a B2B or a business to business, right? So ultimately, yeah, of course it's for a business, but the steel that you're trying to sell to another company, say for example, there is L&T who wants steel to construct all these roads. But even these roads or these flyovers or these passovers that you're building is ultimately for humans, right? It's the safety of the human beings, right? So every damn thing that you're working on, it's for humans. Right. So any brand, whatever they are working on, has a very strong connection to their end audience, which is human. Right. So there's always a scope for you to write this content or to humanize this content that you're trying to build to sell your product. Right. So for example, you're selling it to L&D. You cannot say that, hey, we have. I'm just giving you all an example. Usually these companies talk about the strength, they talk about the material strength, blah blah blah. But what you can say is this is the kind of steel which can actually help the humans to stay strong. I mean, it's for the safety of the humans. I mean, there's always an option open or a gate open, a door open for you to go and touch that human existence, right? So yeah, you can humanize the content.
Mhm. Humanizing your brand is the way to go forward if you haven't been already doing that. So, Imran, to quickly wrap up, what would you leave the audience with? What are the quick pointers that they should remember?
See, I have worked with a lot of startups and I have worked with a lot of big companies. I have worked with corporates. I really want to give some kind of not tips. I know this is a little difficult for me. It might sound harsh, but this is a message for the startups. Understand what branding is first before everyone comes to the agencies and they say that, hey, can you please help me with the branding? And then I asked them, all right, what do you mean by branding? They're like, hey, please give me the logo. Logo is not branding. For me, logo is just an interesting design with a splash of colors on it. Right. But you have to understand what the branding, what is the exercise, the branding exercises. Right. So before you approach an agency, do your homework, but not the research. Because if you do the research, because it's the agencies who does the research for you, but you do the homework to understand like how, I mean, why branding is important for you. Are you in the real game? Or do you want to exist in this business for the next 10 years or 20 years or 30 years? Understand. You come up with your vision. I'm not talking even about the vision statement, but make sure that you know what your vision is, right? And you just have to write it down on a plain paper. Like, what is your vision? What are your values? What is your industry? What is your niche? So you try to understand what might be the future. Based on that, you write your vision, and then you approach an agency, and that's how you make a kick-ass brand.
I think that was a beautiful way to wrap up the entire discussion. And I want to thank you again, Imran, for being on our show today. It was my absolute pleasure hosting you, and I definitely hope to see you again on our show, Imran.
Same here, Akshaya. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care, and I'll see you on our next episode. Bye bye.